In just a moment, I'm going to read a story where the Lord talks about a man sowing seeds. But first I have an illustration. I have here a rock and two seeds, which are small and hard to see. And I'm wondering if someone can maybe tell me what's going to happen if I plant these seeds very carefully on this rock. What's going to happen? Nothing will happen. What if I plant them very carefully? No? What if I water the seeds and hold the rock in the sun? What's going to happen then? Anything? Anything? No? Nothing? So, do you think that means that what I need to do is get new seeds? No? It's not the seeds' problem that they're not growing on the rock? What's my problem? Yeah. I don't have any soil. That's right, you can't grow seeds on a rock. So here's a story from the Lord's Word where the Lord talks about a man sowing seeds and about places where seeds can't grow. On the same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the sea. And great multitudes were gathered to him, so that he got into a boat and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. And he spoke many things to them in parables, saying, Behold, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them. Some fell on stony places where they did not have much earth, and they immediately sprang up because they had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them. But others fell on good ground and yielded a crop, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. So the Lord talks about somebody going out and sowing seeds. And he says some of those seeds, they fell on the side of the road, and they didn't even get a chance to grow. The birds came and just ate them, and that was that. Some of the seeds fell on rocky ground, where there was a little bit of dirt, but not a lot. And so they started to grow, but then when the sun got hot, they weren't planted deeply enough, and so they were scorched and they died. And other seeds were planted in a weedy place where there were thorn plants that grew up and choked out the seeds so that because they didn't have any sun. And some of the seeds fell on good ground where they were able to grow up like they're meant to. It's a pretty good illustration of where seeds can grow and can't grow. But we know that the Lord's not just trying to tell us how to plant seeds. He's trying to tell us something a little deeper. And the Lord's disciples listening to the story also knew that it was supposed to mean something deeper, but they didn't understand it. So they asked him, Lord, what do you mean by telling us this? And so the Lord explained the parable to them. And he said, Therefore, hear the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, then the wicked one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. This is he who sowed seed by the wayside. But he who received the seed on stony places, this is he who receives the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself, but endures only for a while. For when tribulation or persecution arises because of the word, immediately he stumbles. Now he who received seed among the thorns is he who hears the word, and the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and he becomes unfruitful. But he who received the seed on the good ground is he who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit and produces, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. So the Lord says that those seeds are like the truths of His Word. They're the good, true things that He's trying to plant in our minds and in our hearts so that they grow up into all of the good things that He wishes for us to have. And the seeds are good, but if we're trying to plant them somewhere that they're just not going to grow, it doesn't matter how hard we try, seeds just can't grow on a rock. And all of those different places where the seeds fell in the story, those represent different attitudes or different states of mind and heart in us. There are different ways we can respond when the Lord teaches us His Word. The seeds that fell by the side of the road are like teachings that just go in one ear and out the other. We don't even understand them. Don't even have a chance to start appreciating them. Teachings, the seeds that fell on the stony ground, that's like when the Word falls on a kind of a stony heart. We hear it, we say, yeah, that's true. But there's a part of us that's not willing to let it all the way in. We don't let it down deep. We don't take it into our heart and really say, I'm going to live this. And so, when it starts to get hard to do what the Lord teaches, like when we start to say, it's really hard to go to this other person and say, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Or it's really hard to resist this feeling that if I just told a lie, I could get myself out of trouble. If those seeds aren't planted down deep, when it starts to get hard, it's too easy to say, it just doesn't matter that much. It's not that important to me. And so those truths from the Lord, they started to grow up, but then they stopped growing. They die. And the weeds that some of the seeds fell in, those represent other voices in our heads. Voices that say things like, hey, it's fun to play video games. You know what really makes me feel good? What really makes me feel happy is chocolate ice cream. All the things from the world around us. And those voices can be pretty loud, just like weeds can grow really fast. And if we're giving too much time to all those other voices, they grow up so big and fast that there's no space to listen to the Lord's Word. There's no space in us where we can stop and think, hey, what the Lord teaches is really important. But the good ground, so when we hear the Lord's teachings and we understand them and we try to take good care of them, when we say what the Lord teaches is that we should be useful and try to love our neighbor, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take care of these seeds so that they grow up like they're meant to. And we know that one of the miracles of a seed is that that one tiny seed becomes a plant or a tree that has thousands of its own seeds. And each of those seeds can become a new plant. And so that one little thing can turn into so much more than what you started with. And just the same way, the one little truth that the Lord wants to plant in us is going to grow up into so many blessings and so many ideas about how we can serve our neighbor. But we have to choose to let those seeds be planted in good ground. We have to choose to make ourselves a good field, not a stony place, not a thorny place, not the side of the road. So that when the Lord teaches us, we can take it in and let the truth grow. Amen.